Picture this. You are 53 years old, you are at the gym, and the guy next to you is 58. He is lifting more than you, recovering faster than you, and frankly looking better than you. You ask him what he is doing differently. He says 2 words. Creatine. Monohydrate. And you think, is that not just for bodybuilders? Is that not just for 25-year-olds trying to get huge? That is exactly what most men over 50 assume. And that assumption is costing them more than they realize. Creatine has been around in the sports science world since the early 1990s, and for most of that time the conversation around it has been dominated by younger athletes, bodybuilders, and performance coaches. The research on older men past 50, has been building quietly in the background for decades. And what that research is now showing is genuinely surprising. Because the benefits of creatine for men over 50 are not just about muscle. They go significantly deeper than that. So let us start at the beginning. What is creatine actually doing inside your body right now, whether you take it or not? Your body already makes creatine. Your liver, your kidneys, and your pancreas produce it from amino acids, and you get more from red meat and fish. It gets stored in your muscles as something called phosphocreatine. And that phosphocreatine acts like a rapid-fire energy reserve. When your muscles need a quick burst of power, that is the fuel they reach for first. Here is where it gets important for men over 50 specifically. As you age, your natural creatine production declines. Your dietary intake often drops too, especially if you are eating less red meat, which many men do as they get older for heart health reasons. The result is that your phosphocreatine stores gradually shrink. And when those stores shrink, your muscles fatigue faster, your recovery takes longer, and your ability to maintain strength and power output starts to quietly erode. Most men chalk this up to just getting older. But part of it is this. The condition that describes this age-related muscle loss has a name. It is called sarcopenia. And it is more serious than most men realize. Sarcopenia is not just about looking less muscular. It is about functional strength, the kind that keeps you climbing stairs, carrying groceries, getting up off the floor without assistance. Studies suggest that men can lose between 3 and 5% of their muscle mass per decade after 30, and that rate accelerates after 60. Creatine supplementation has been studied specifically as a tool to slow this process down. So what does the research actually show when men over 50 take creatine? Multiple controlled studies have found that creatine supplementation, combined with resistance training, produces meaningfully greater gains in lean muscle mass compared to resistance training alone. We are not talking about turning into a bodybuilder. We are talking about preserving and rebuilding the functional muscle that keeps you strong, mobile, and independent as you age. And here is the million-dollar question: does it work without exercise? The honest answer is that the benefits are significantly smaller without training. Now let us talk about something that surprises most people when they first hear it. Creatine does not just affect your muscles. There is a growing and genuinely exciting body of research looking at what creatine does to the brain. Your brain uses a significant amount of energy, and it uses phosphocreatine as part of that energy system. As creatine stores in the brain decline with age, some researchers believe this contributes to cognitive fatigue, slower processing speed, and reduced mental sharpness. Supplementing with creatine may help restore some of that buffer. One study that gets cited frequently looked at older adults who were given creatine supplementation over several weeks and then tested on memory and intelligence tasks. The creatine group outperformed the placebo group in ways that were statistically significant. Now, I want to be careful here. This is not a cure for cognitive decline. The research is still developing. But the signal is interesting enough that neuroscientists are paying close attention. For a man in his 50s who wants to stay sharp at work and at home, this is worth knowing about. Let me paint you a picture of what happens to bone as men age, because this connects directly to the creatine conversation. After 50, men begin losing bone density at a rate that is slower than women but still clinically significant. This increases the risk of fractures, particularly in the hip and spine. Some research has looked at whether creatine supplementation, again combined with resistance training, can help maintain or improve bone mineral density in older men. The results are not definitive yet, but they are promising enough to be part of the conversation. Now I want to address something that comes up almost every time creatine is discussed with men over 50. The kidney concern. You have probably heard that creatine is hard on your kidneys. This is one of the most persistent myths in sports nutrition, and most people get this completely wrong, so let me fix that. The concern originated from the fact that creatine metabolism produces a waste product called creatinine, which is filtered by the kidneys. Higher creatinine levels in a blood test can look like a sign of kidney stress. But in healthy individuals, the research consistently shows creatine supplementation does not damage kidney function. That said, there is an important distinction here. If you already have a diagnosed kidney condition, chronic kidney disease for example, then creatine supplementation is something you need to discuss with your doctor before starting. That distinction matters more than you might think. For men with healthy kidneys, the evidence is reassuring. For men with pre-existing kidney issues, it is a genuine conversation to have with your GP or nephrologist. Do not let the myth stop you from asking the right question. Let us talk about testosterone for a moment, because men over 50 often come to the creatine conversation through the testosterone door. They are noticing lower energy, reduced strength, slower recovery, and they want to know if creatine can help. The honest answer is nuanced. Creatine does not raise testosterone directly. However, there is some evidence that creatine supplementation may increase levels of a hormone called DHT, which is dihydrotestosterone, a more potent androgen derived from testosterone. The implications of this are still being studied and are not fully understood. Now, some men hear DHT and immediately think about hair loss, because DHT is associated with male pattern baldness. And the concern is understandable. One study did find that creatine supplementation raised DHT levels in young rugby players. But the evidence connecting creatine supplementation directly to accelerated hair loss in older men is not strong. If you are already losing hair and it concerns you, it is worth mentioning to your doctor. But the current evidence does not suggest creatine is a significant driver of hair loss in men who are not already predisposed to it. So how do you actually take creatine? The most studied and most recommended form is creatine monohydrate. It is the cheapest, the most researched, and the most effective. Some products marketed as premium alternatives, things like creatine HCl or buffered creatine, cost significantly more and do not have the same depth of research behind them. The standard dosing approach for older men is typically 3 to 5 grams per day, taken consistently. You do not need to do a loading phase, which is where some people take very high doses for the first week. Steady daily dosing works just as well over time. One practical thing worth knowing: creatine draws water into your muscle cells. This is actually part of how it works, and it is a good thing. But it does mean that when you first start taking it, you may notice a small increase on the scale, typically 1 to 2 kilograms, which is water weight inside your muscles, not fat. Some men panic when they see this and stop taking it. Do not. That water retention inside the muscle is a sign it is working. Stay well hydrated, which you should be doing anyway, and give it at least 4 weeks before you assess whether it is making a difference for you. Sound familiar? You have tried something for 2 weeks, did not see dramatic results, and quietly stopped. That is one of the most common patterns in men's health behavior, and it is worth naming directly. Creatine is not a dramatic intervention. It is a slow, steady, cumulative tool. The men who get the most out of it are the ones who combine it with consistent resistance training, take it every day, and give it 3 to 6 months to show its full effect. The research is built on consistent use. And so is the result. Here is where I want to leave you with the bigger picture. Creatine is not magic. It is not a replacement for sleep, for good nutrition, for managing your blood pressure and cholesterol, or for staying on top of your screening tests. But for men over 50 who are already trying to do those things and want an evidence-backed supplement that supports muscle health, brain health, and physical resilience, creatine monohydrate is probably the most well-researched option available. It is also one of the cheapest. A month's supply typically costs less than a single visit to a specialist. Before you go, I want to say something directly to you if you are the kind of man who has been putting his health on the back burner. The fact that you are watching this tells me you are starting to pay attention. That matters. You do not need to overhaul your entire life this week. You just need to keep learning, keep asking questions, and start having the conversations with your doctor that you have been putting off. Creatine is one small piece of a much larger picture. But understanding it properly, understanding what is actually happening in your body, that is how you stay ahead of it. If this video helped you understand something you did not understand before, please hit like and subscribe. I put out new videos every week on the health topics that matter most to men, explained in plain language, without the jargon and without the panic. And if there is a topic you want me to cover, drop it in the comments. I read every single one. I will see you in the next one.